Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I think it's time. It's 2 o'clock. At my time, a different time for everyone. We come from different area. Okay. But anyway, thanks for everyone attending our IETF DDoS Open Threat Signaling Working Group interim meeting. This time, okay. I'm Liang Xia, and my co-chair is Valerie Smith Love. Valerie, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. So I think we can start our today's interim meeting. We have 1 hour's time. So firstly, our chair will give a very brief introduction of this meeting. Okay. And for this page, it's some suggestions, some details of this interim meeting. Everyone is here in our WebEx, and okay. And if you want to download the meeting slides, we have provided our link here, meeting slides, and we have our Etherpad for the note taking. And you can go to that link and to see what our note taker has write down. And later, anytime you want to see the result, something you can see that. Okay, and we have our Jabber link, but I don't think it's very necessary because everyone now is in the we are all online. We are use WebEx, so anyway, you can go the Jabber. Yeah.
There's no people in Jabber at the moment, so if you want, you can join. But it seems that nobody uses it now. And I just want to remind for participants to sign virtual blue sheets as a part link.
Yeah, please.
Very few people currently signed. So
Yeah. Yes, because now there's a relatively new way for us in this new age for the pandemic, for the coronavirus pandemic. I think more and more meeting will be held online. So we do not have paper. We write down on the online on our Etherpad page. So please write down your name on the Etherpad. Okay, and okay, here is some tips for our new way of the interim meeting. Okay, so please aware that our current WebEx interim meeting is being recorded. So for people who want to who want to know our discussion later, so we have recorded all the discussion, all the meeting. And some suggestions. Please make sure your video is off, unless you want to present, you want to discuss, okay? And mute your microphone to avoid some influence of others talking. And you can join the queue or remove you from the queue by the tips. And of course, don't forget to write down your name on the visual blue sheet. And you can also use Jabber. Okay. And this is not where. I believe most of guys are very familiar with this kind of information. If you are not very familiar, please read it and becoming more familiar with it, because that's all the policies that if you are the one of the attendees of the IETF meeting or IETF this organization, you should be familiar with this policy. Okay. And okay. And then this we need some help. Firstly, blue sheets. Okay, everyone can write down your name on our Etherpad, and subscribe. Thanks for Valerie. He is on that. He's taking care of. Yeah, but
yes, take care.
Yeah, and note taker, and thanks to Wei Pan, he will be our note taker. Yeah, if other people are also interested, you can go to visit the Etherpad. Okay, and okay, then I'll turn to Valerie. Valerie can give us an introduction of our current working group draft status.
Well, we have just recently published two RFCs, 8782 and 8783, that are a core of DOTS protocol stack for signal channel and data channel. And it was a very hard job, and thanks to everybody involved. And it was particularly a lot of discussion with signal channel RFC. Finally, they have been published. So congratulations and thanks to everybody involved. So
yes, thanks everybody. Yeah, great work.
Progress. Architect draft is in the RFC editor state. It's due to some subjective and objective circumstances. There is currently a long delay in publishing RFCs because RFC editor switched from XML to RFC version 2 to XML to RFC version 3, and it was just a lot of burden on RFC editor. So publication process is currently a bit slowed down, and it's for quite a long time in the RFC editor queue, but we hope it will publish soon. So control and filtering rules draft is currently in ISG evaluation, and as far as I remember, I just looked yesterday, it was no discusses from ISG members yet. So we hope it will pass ISG evaluation smoothly, and then we'll send to RFC editor. 3 drafts are submitted to for publication, but they are not yet reviewed by our area director, so they're waiting to be reviewed and then sent to publication. The telemetry draft is the only draft that is being actively developed recently, and we've seen several revisions with quite a lot of discussions on the mailing list, and I think that also thinks that the draft is very close to a last call. But I think we need a little bit more discussion about it. But probably it's close to last call. And what about multi-home consideration draft? I think it wasn't developed very intensively recently, so I think it's a bit of stuck. And we need new energy to push it out and to discuss it. I see no discussion on the list about multi-home and draft for last half a year about. So I think we should get more energy to work on this draft. So Frank.
Yes.
You will tell us about our current agenda.
Okay. Yeah, it's no problem. Okay, so we almost finished our session. So next one is we will have a relatively long discussion about the most important draft, our telemetry draft, and then we will go through the multi-homing draft and the use case for the telemetry draft, and then the draft from China Mobile about their DOS server deployment. That's all for our today's draft presentation. And if we have more time, we can have a more broader discussion about our current charter or the future work, and then we can wrap up today's meeting. So so remember that we have 1 hour, but I think it's enough. It's enough for us. So Okay, okay. Is anyone has any you know any does anyone has special agenda? If no, I think we can start today's first presentation. It's DOS telemetry. So Matt or Tiru, who will present it?
Yeah, I will start. I will start, and I will let
okay.
let my co-authors further comment.
You cannot see Matt.
Needed.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. Yeah.
Okay.
So this will be, I would say, the presentation to give you a summary of what we have done since I would say the last time we met together on the work on dot telemetry. So please, if you can to the next slide, please.
Yes, Matt, if you want the next slide, just tell me next and I will advance it.
Thank you, Valerie. So next, please. Yeah, so the in this slot, so as I mentioned, so I will provide a studies, and then we will zoom on some key, I would say, design points that we have made already some decision on the list, but we need to double check if everyone is okay with that, and then some next steps for the draft. Next slide, please. So this is the I would say, yeah. So the draft was adopted last year, and since the draft was adopted, so we went into, I would say, extensive working on this document so that we can progress it as fast as possible. So we went to into 9 revisions since then. We doubled, I would say, the number of pages. I would say we have a lot of details there for the specifications, so that things are really clear. Instead of 1 young model, we have now two young models. I will explain later why we have that. In terms of attributes that we define, we have, I would say, more than 100 attributes that we are using for telemetry. We are including a lot of examples, so that's really, I would say, implementers and also the readers can understand I would say, the intent of many features that we are describing in that draft. And of course, and as usual as we have doing in that, we are working together with the implementation and to integrate any feedback that we receive from them. So I won't list all of the changes that we have made since last year, but we'll focus only on a few of them. So next slide, please. So this is for those of you who are not familiar of, I would say, with the telemetry, which I suppose and the DOTS client is also collocated with LMS. And in that context, the DOTS client has
Is
some
it my
local
problem
information
or the problem? Matt, you.
Sorry.
Hey Matt, we can't hear you. Your voice was breaking.
Yeah. I always really think it's my own problem. So it's network from the Matt from your side. It's your voice is not very clear. Can you say something, Matt? No voice.
Yeah, I think he's reconnecting probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hear you again, but
Perhaps I have a problem with my connection.
oh, okay. Now it's better. It's good now.
Okay, so Tiro or John, please, when you have any of these issues, please feel free to jump in and continue the presentation, please. So, sorry about that. So yeah. So in this slide, what I was about saying is that when there's a local information which is available by the local DMS, the DOTS client can share the information with the DOTS server, and we are not doing that in the mitigation request because we don't want to interfere with that, and also because of the size of the telemetry data that we are sharing with the DOTS server, so we need an additional, I would say, signal to be sent to the server with this set of information. Next slide, please. Another context in which the telemetry will be is really
Ahmed, we lost you.
the telemetry information about the target
Okay.
prefix, which is under attack. And then the DDoS client will decide whether it has to send a mitigation request or not. So in this example, it will send a mitigation request. So this is really proactive, and the server and the clients are really collaborating together in order to detect early as possible an attack and then to place mitigation requests. Next slide, please. So how to, this is more on the technicalities of the, I would say, on how we can send the telemetry data. So as you know, we can do that with the current existing message that we have in the signal channel, specifications, where we are defining we are defining a new type message, which we call the telemetry, in which you see we have a new operation path, which is the telemetry. And then there's an exhaustive list of parameters and attributes that we are conveying in this messages. In this kind of, I would say, in this type of message, we are really not aggregating the data we have. We are allowing a wide granularity of information that can be shared, because the purpose here is to share as much information we can with the peer, so that we can have, I would say, to be in sync, and so that we can foster the mitigation, that we can help to for instance, the DOTS client or the DOTS server to assess whether the mitigation operation are really really on track and on progressing. Next slide, please. And we can also, so this is another context in which we can use the telemetry data is when there is, I would say, a mitigation request is already placed by the client on the server. The DOS client can send, as we do today in the DOS signal channel, what we call the efficacy update, and in that part. We have this new extension in which the client can share more information about the, I would say, the ongoing attack with the server, and we are putting that in the existing, I would say, efficacy update, but we augment it with new attributes. And in this, the attributes that we are putting in this part of messages are really aggregated, and we don't have the same comprehensive that we have in the previous slide. Next slide, please. In the similar way, the DOTS server can send a status update to the DOTS client, and in that, for instance, it can send more data that can be used, for instance, for billing or whatever purpose by the DOTS client. And we have this telemetry information that we can also send on the to the client. And this one, again, we are focusing only on aggregates. For instance, we are not sending data per protocol or per port and so on, really, because we don't want to exacerbate the size of the telemetry data that we are sending back to the client. Next slide, please. And also there is a context in which we, as we have discussed already in the telemetry data, that's, as you know today, many of the detection techniques rely on thresholds. But the threshold-based detection is really broken, and there are, I would say, some attacks that can pass this kind of, I would say, filters. So that's why it is important for the DOTS server, if it wants to, for instance, to detect abnormal traffic or any attack traffic, to have an idea about the baseline or the traffic baseline of a given DOTS client domain. So in order to do that, we are defining means in the telemetry specifications to allow a DOTS client to share as much as possible the information about the traffic normal baseline. So again, this is really a comprehensive list of information. It can be on protocol, port, or a connection number, etc. And we have a lot of details in the draft. Next slide, please. This one also, if as you know, when we have a collaboration between the DOS client and the DOS server, and when there is an attack which is signaled by, for instance, by the DOS client to the DOS server, the DOS server will solicit a mitigator so that it can inspect the traffic and clean the traffic before forwarding the clean traffic into the DOS client domain. But if the DOS server is not aware about the capacity of the links of the DOS client domain, the direction of the clean traffic into the DOS client domain may be another source of attack. So that's why with the DOS client share the what we call the pipes of capacities that for the ingress with the DOS server, so that the server will take that information in order to adjust the traffic that will be sent or distributed among existing egress links of the DOS client domain. Next slide, please. And of course, we have a lot of, I would say, additional configuration information that we need to negotiate between the DOS client and the server. For instance, the measurement interval and so on, so that to make sure that we have the same reference interval measurement and the same base, I would say, metrics in order to make the computation and to make the analysis and so on. For instance, the DOS client can disable some of the percentiles. For instance, if it is only interested on the high percentiles for the traffic and so on, it can set that with the DOS server, and only that kind of information will be sent to the server. And of course, we are also indicating to the server whether the client, for instance, is interested to receive the server-originated telemetry. This is more, I would say, relevant in case of the server update sends telemetry information in the update message that it sent to the client. And this is to avoid any, I would say, errors or any, I would say, exacerbation of the size of the messages, while this is not useful for the client. We are also introducing this notion of the telemetry notification interval. So this is also, again, another guard to avoid overloading the links with the notifications and to avoid creating new congestions, and while we are already under severe attacks. We are also negotiating a lot of types there and query types that that are used to filter out the data that we are interested to receiving from the server. Next slide, please. Yeah, so once we have, I would say, when we have defined all this, I would say the attributes that can be used for the telemetry, one of the questions we have in the early phases of the specification is whether we need, as you know, for instance, I'm just giving here an example of the same attribute, which is the total attack traffic, for instance. So the key, the value of this, I would say, as you in the name of the attributes in the JSON notation, for instance, will be different whether we are including this in a pure telemetry message, or whether we include it into an existing signal channel messages. So we have discussed whether we will use only one key value for both of them, so that I would say it's up to the implementation to decide whether this is a telemetry or an efficacy update or a normal, I would say, signal channel message, and then map it to the appropriate attributes. But
Madam, we lost you. Not hear you. Hopefully disappear. Hi, Matt.
Yes.
Lost you. Oh, you're back?
Yes. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Sorry about
Okay.
that. But anyway, so
Okay.
Tiro or John, please, if you want to, yeah, because of my, I would say, my connection problems, if you want just to. Okay, so next slide, please. Yeah, so the decision that we have taken is to simplify the implementation, and that this is why we went to with two key values for even if this can be assimilated as same attributes, we are using two key values here to simplify the implementations, and there is no local mapping table that will be used as a function of the type of the messaging in which we are inserting the telemetry data. Next slide, please. So there's this question whether we need to we have to define the attributes as a comprehension required or a comprehension optional attributes, and we went with the as you can see in the next slide, please. That yeah. So as you know, the telemetry is only are really optional, and the telemetry data is only used as a hint by the server. So the server is really free to take into account this information for the mitigation, but it can use it, of course, but it can ignore it. So this is really I would say optional, and we don't want to exacerbate the persistent failure. So each time, for instance, if you have defined that as a comprehensive required, each time you will send an attribute which is not understood by the peer, there will be an error, and then we have to fall back into a normal process in which you don't insert that information. So that's why we are really consistent and coherent what we have done in the for the other specification. So this is really a comprehensive optional attribute. But then we have this issue. If given the ranges that we have defined for the comprehensive optional attributes, this kind of keys that will be used will consume 3 bytes, so which will be, I would say, and given the amount of the data that will be sent in the telemetry, this may be problematic. So that's why we have this this proposal to define a new range for the comprehensive optional attributes that will be in the high. This point that was raised, I would say, in for against version 1, in which I have shared this proposal, but there we didn't make any, I would say, any conclusion about this one, and I would really like to hear from you today whether you have any objection if we implement this change. So is there any objection if we go with this design?
I can only tell my own opinion. I think that I'm always in favor of saving bytes on the wire, but I think that this must be discussed on the list. At least some people should evaluate this option. Some more experienced in this field people should evaluate this option. So no objection from my side, but I'm not deeply involved, and I think more people need to discuss it.
Hey Med, this is Thiru here. I have a comment here. I mean, as you know, right? I mean, telemetry data is supposed to be optional, and the dot server can ignore the telemetry messages, right? I mean, so the whole idea was telemetry is an optional feature, and whether the dot server uses some of these features for identifying its mitigation strategy or not is optional. So making it comprehension required seem to save bytes seems like an overkill for the dot server to understand all these messages. Otherwise, it has to start rejecting these messages, right? If you comply with dot signal channel specification. Hello. Hello. Hey, I think we lost Med again, but I think we should take this discussion to the mailing list.
So I mean, yeah, I really have a problem with my connection. I'm sorry.
Hey, Med, I don't know whether you got my comment. Hello.
I think we are becoming more and more used to matters periodically disappear. But anyway, I think we have the consensus. Yeah, but please read these things you in the mailing list. We can get more feedbacks, comments. Yeah, we can go on. Maybe Tiru, you can help Matt to continue. We lost Matt. Let's give Matt 1 more minute, 30 seconds. Okay. It seems that his problem becoming
Hey,
more.
John, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I'll take over. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so on the telemetry okay, so the telemetry attributes, basically what Med is asking here is to originally the comprehension required was 1 all the way through to 16383, and it's just to make a subset of that just comprehension optional so that we can have the telemetry attributes sitting down in a single byte. That's what that is. But yeah, we'll take it to the mailing list. Okay, so go next slide. Okay, so here is currently we're sharing the information, in particular things like the different attack IDs, what's going on, and the draft originally just had attack name included in there, which is a string, which is quite long, which then takes up quite a lot of space sitting there within the telemetry data. So what we've proposed is that through the data channel is that we just have an attack ID and attack name mapping system in place so that we only need to pass the attack ID between the client and the server over the signal channel as is necessary. But if for some reason that the client and the server have not exchanged via the data channel the attack names to attack ID mappings, then the client or server can include the attack name as part of the data that's going back and forth. In particular, it could be covering, there's a new attack name just come out, and yet both ends haven't synchronized on that. Okay, I think next slide. Okay, so a lot of the telemetry stuff made us realize that we have severe challenges with large data packets. And there is within the COAP underlying mechanism, there's the ability to be able to do what a block 1 and block 2, where data can be reduced down into blocks and then sent over the COAP channel, reassembled at the other end, and things continue. We looked at trying to break the data we send down into individual chunks so that everything sits into a packet, so we can parcelize everything up into individual packets. But the Yang ini data requires a fully fledged JSON definition sitting there. We found that that wouldn't work there. The use of block 1 and block 2, the challenge is that they are lockstepped in that you send a block, the other end says, yep, I got it. You can then send the next block. The other end says, yep, I got it. Please send the next one. And there's a lockstep process. But if we are running in a pipe full scenario, because we're under attack, we can't have that lockstep. We can't necessarily have bidirectional traffic. We can have unidirectional traffic. So a solution, or a potential solution to that is we came up with a block 3, block 4 equivalent to the block 1 and block 2, which doesn't require packets to be acknowledged. So that with a block 3, which is a push or type environment is that all the data can be just pushed at once, and then the server can receive it and acknowledge it at any one point in time at the end. And likewise, block 4 is when the server is sending stuff back, it can just send all the data in a series of blocks, and there can be a single acknowledgement at the end. Embedded in there, we have recovery, so we can say, well, we're missing block 1, 5, and 29 type stuff sitting in there. So it works in a lossy environment. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this just really talks about this particular draft that we have out there. In there, we have things to do with things like probing rates, so we can make sure that the actual block 3, block 4 don't overload a pipe in their own rights by sending too much data. So we have controls in place, what's taking place there. And we've put in something called max payloads, which basically says after 10 packets, take a breather, maybe exchange something and carry on. And we have got within the block 3, block 4 options, we have using the co-op e-tag and request tags to identify that this particular set of blocks is associated with this particular body of data. And there's a new, say, response code that comes back and says, well, yeah, I got everything but missing blocks 1, 5, and 10 or whatever, so that there can be recovery sitting in there. Next slide. Okay, so here's just as an example, we can see that the traffic being sent, so 4 puts go up, 2 of them get lost, so the server realizes something is missing, so returns with, in this case it's a 418, but I think we're going to go with 419 code, saying, give me these missing blocks, number 1 and 2, so it retransmits blocks 1 and 2, 2 still doesn't get through, and then it requests it again and so on. So we can just see the recovery mechanism in place there. Next slide. And the same for block 4 is just transmission from the server with a whole lot of telemetry data coming back to the client, and some of the traffic gets lost. And so the client can request that he wants some missing blocks. Or optionally, the client can decide, well, actually, life has moved on. I don't really need to re-request these. We're in a lossy environment. Let's just wait for the next update. So draft covers that. Next slide. So within the current telemetry draft, we make reference to the fact that there is this ongoing block 3, block 4 work, but we haven't said it's a requirement that this is taking place because all the different parts have not yet come together. Currently, in the draft, would have to use block 1, block 2, which does have its limitations because of the lockstep requirements sitting there, and we do recognize that a full inbound pipe, for example, will cause us problems. So just saying that we can consider the use of the block 3, block 4 option. Until that becomes an RFC in its own rights or something like that, we can only just recommend that people can think about that. Next slide. Okay, so just moving on to the implementation and the interrupts where we're going on. So underbedding all, or underwriting all the DOTS work has been sort of implementations and interop testing, which has shaken out quite a lot of kind of misunderstandings or things that just need sorting out. So current status, as far as my perspective is concerned, is this is where I'm at with the NCC implementation. Everything is up to date apart from the telemetry, which is version 7, and I'm working on bringing it up to version 9. The main fundamental difference there is the attack ID to attack name mapping that we mentioned before, and it's currently using block 2. I haven't got the block 4 implemented stuff in there, so that's the situation where I am at the moment. So it's a fairly mature there. It's servers, again stated before, is publicly available on the internet for people to try their client implementations against, or if they want to try it, call home, all that kind of stuff is available there. Next slide. Do you want to pick this up, or can I? But so Kanamai's been doing the other half, is the GoDots implementation, the open source implementation. And
hey, John, can you take comments at this stage?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, John, on the previous slide, right? I mean, I like the idea of exchanging the attack ID and names in the DOTS data channel, especially because the names are not standard, right? I mean, every vendor has its own way of interpreting a attack description, right? And if somebody is using, let's say, NLP or deep learning to basically map these using some word emitting techniques to identify whether it maps to some attack they already have. I think sharing as much detailed description of the attack name is a good idea and only can be done in a data channel. And if all the attack description details are sent in signal channel, you have size restrictions. So I think if somebody wants to have deep learning techniques to map the attack IDs to whatever mitigation techniques they have, I think definitely a data channel seems to be a good place for that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and certainly we within there we actually have vendor ID, and then all the different attack IDs. So that for a particular vendor, he can have his own set. So vendor A and vendor B will be different. Their interpretations are different, but you can come up with a mapping that vendor A's X means vendor Y's Y. Yes.
Yeah, that can all be automated. Yeah, yeah. And on the question of block 3 and block 4, right? Looks like I mean you're heading the path of the Quick, right? I mean Quick protocol that's being discussed at IETF, where you can do multiplexing, and you don't have to worry about head of line blocking, right? That seems to be a great way of doing it, but is that creating a normative dependency on that? Because that seems to be a much because our for a large data center or an ISP that is getting attacked, right, or a large enterprise getting attacked, the telemetry details are going to be large set of messages, right? And if we envision the telemetry details are going to be large set of messages and will be exchanged during extreme network conditions, for example, when the network is congested, right? Do you see that there's going to be more need for block 3 and block 4 going? I know that draft is not yet adapted, but do you see that it's going to become more of a mandatory implementation that will be required by DOTS?
Yes, I certainly think so. In particular, if there's a likelihood of any lossy pipes or any lossy connections anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, and we will have lossy connections at the time of mitigation, right?
Absolutely, yes. So that's why we came up with block 3, block 4, is to be able to get around the issue of the fact that block 1 and block 2 are lockstepped, in that you have to have symmetric traffic taking place. Where we need to be able to do this asymmetrically.
Okay.
Just one further comment about this part, Tiru, and is that actually yes. So we are as mentioned that in the one of the slides, that we are not using on purpose, I would say, any normative language to avoid any dependency in any delay of the specification. That's the first point. The second point is that in the draft we have many, I would say, tweaks in order to optimize data. For instance, we have this ability to filter out the data that can be conveyed in the signal channel, so that you can control the amount of data, so that this can fit one or very few, I would say, messages. So we have some, I would say, some tools there in order to control the size of the messages themselves. But yes, I agree with John that in some time we will need to have this block 3 and block 4 to be implemented, but we cannot see it as a mandatory right now in the in the current specification, because we don't control, I would say, the how that specification will go through the co-working group and so on. So that's why we are proposing this approach, that we will record the issue, we will work on, I would say, on tweaks on how we can do things better without frozen the specification to something that we are not sure that we'll get soon in time, so that we can deliver a solution to be there for telemetry. This solution can be, I would say, hopefully enhanced with once we have this block 3 and block 4, but we are not recommending to have, at least we are not using any normative language for that one.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Hi, it's Frank. Sorry, everyone. I think we are short of time. Time flies. So please make it faster, because we have several topics, other topics. Okay.
Okay, so next slide. Next slide. Okay, so just basically we did a lot of interoperability tests back in March, April. There's a couple of things still outstanding, and we've found it very useful to pass information back and forwards. And in the sort of preliminary test, we were talking about 8 or 9 packets required for basically a fairly minimal subset of telemetry information. So for a body of information, so we do need the ability to be handle block packets. Okay, next slide. So here just briefly is covering where we're at, and as we can see, fairly well covered in terms of what's there in the specification. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we can pick up this a bit later, but just if someone is writing telemetry information to the server and the server is giving his own version of the telemetry information back, who is the boss in all this? So we just need to clarify that, so we can pick that up in the working group as we short of time. Okay, next slide. Here's just again clarification. Again, we can pick it up on the sort of the working group general mailing list. Next slide. And again, we've just picking up some detail. Again, we can go to the next slide. And so next steps, we'll pick up on a couple of bits of feedback, work it into the next version, and then go for a working group last call. Any further comments?
Yes, it's Frank. As a chair, we think that we should make it faster, make the whole process. So I think for us, for us chairs, we will request, because current version there's a lot of young attributes for the DDoS mitigation telemetry. So and it's a very long young model draft. So I think we should request the young doctor's review, so to help improve the whole quality of the young data model. So that's what we will do. And secondly, I think all this DOS telemetry information is also very related to the traffic analysis, to the DDoS traffic situation, something. So I think it's also very necessary we ask the OPS area directorate to have the review of the current draft from the from the traffic aspects. So all of your new attributes. So that's what we want to do, and we hope that there's more discussion about, especially from the operator's view, if they can give some comments on the main list about all the value of these attributes, that will be great. Anyway, we want this draft to to make it faster. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So do you mean that you will request an official, I would say, review from the Ops Directorate and the young doctors?
Yes. I want to do these two requests. Yes.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for saving time, we don't have too much time. So I recommend that if we have any new comments, we can post it on the main list, so we can go to next draft presentation. So it's about the DOS multi-homing. So it's still Matt?
Yeah, that will be, I would say, really fast, this one.
Great.
Yeah. So for the next slide, please. So we have only one slide for, so this is, so that we have released the annotated version last in May. So to fix some normative language up to fix some minor edits there. We received from the authors, because I'm personally, I would say, too familiar with the documents, and it's sometimes difficult to, I would say, to see issues. So I have asked some of the co-authors to double check if there is any, I would say, issues or any suggestion to enhance the specification. That the feedback I received from Weapon in particular, that the text is I would say, he don't see any issues there. So I reiterate what I have sent to the list. We really need, I would say, fresh eyes to look on the text and to share reviews and feedback on that one. So I don't think that the document is ready for working group last call yet, because we don't have, I would say, a lot of reviews so far. So I suggest to wait for more 2 iterations for the draft before we target the last call. And I suggest to have a deadline for September to have this document I would say stable. So that's all what I have to say on this one. And of course, please review and share your comment on this document.
So any comments on this draft? If no, we can go to next one. What's telemetry use case? So
Hi.
Yuhei, your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. Yuhei, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So I will make presentation quickly. So next, please. So this is background slides. And at IETF 106, we presented a telemetry use case, and some people suggested us to write telemetry use case draft. And so we merged telemetry use cases proposed by China Mobile. Next, please. And this is the objective of the draft. So the objective of the draft is showing how to use dot telemetry in a network and diffuse of this dot telemetry. And contents of the draft is sample use cases, including aim of the use case and what components are deployed in the network and how they cooperate and what information is exchanged. Next, please. And these use cases are mainly divided by three types: use case using attack traffic bandwidth information, and use case using attack traffic attack type information, and the other. I will not explain each use case here, but these all use cases can be carried out using .telemetry from .client to .server. Next, please. So this slide shows what attributes of .telemetry are used in our use case or are not used. So far, some attributes such as baseline or total attack connection are not used in our use cases. Next, please. So we will add some additional use cases which use the attributes for next. And we will add some use cases in I will add additional use cases which use a baseline or total attack connections and so on. And we will add some use cases in which signal from server to client is used. So if you have comments to my draft, please give me comments on mailing list. Co-authors are also welcome. Next, please. So this is a discussion slide. So we have some options how to move forward with this draft. One option is recurring working adoption after addressing comments from working group. Some people prefer on mailing list. The other option is adding a high-level use case description to the telemetry draft. And at IETF 106, so Chair said this is better. So I already asked this question on mailing list. So if you have any thoughts, please reply on mailing list. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yuhei. So efficient presentation. So I want to ask any comments about the content, about the next step of this draft. Especially it's relevant with the telemetry draft. So how do you see? Yeah.
Yeah, personally, as I already mentioned in the mailing list, I think that this is a useful draft, and this is ought to be, I would say, perceived as a standalone document in which I would say it can evolve independently of the telemetry specification itself that we have already, I would say, a very huge document. So yeah, so I really support to have this as a use case document which is specific to telemetry, and we can work on that part to add more, I would say, more use cases and so on without, I would say, having this complexity to introduce.
So I have a question to you, Matt. Do you think current draft are closely mapping to your telemetry draft document, or there are still some gap. They are not so, too very overlapping each use cases with your solution. Hello?
I
Lost.
think we lost her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Frank, my opinion is I think we should definitely pursue this draft. This draft actually talks about a lot of scenarios, right? I'm not sure how we're going to convert all of them and squeeze them into the telemetry draft, right? So I think it's better that the telemetry draft refers to this one as an informational draft, and we continue to make progress on this one. So for me, option one looks like an more preferable option to make more progress on this and have more discussions. I think it discusses several use cases. Maybe there are a few more use cases that it needs to add, but I think definitely it would cover the various reasons why telemetry, both from the client and server, would help both the peers to exchange and then make use of it, right? So I support this work, and I think we should adapt this.
Okay, as an individual, my personal opinion, I think that for simplify all the process, if the current draft use case draft is it's good and it's mapping to the telemetry draft well, or we can make it to good enough in a short time. I prefer the option two because uh, now more and more working group, all the ADs are recommending use to just use case as the appendix of some architecture or solution draft. So it's it makes all the process simple. But yeah, it's just my personal opinion. Let's see how the progress, how the quality of current use case draft, and make decision later.
Hi, it's Valery. As an individual, I also want to add a consideration that if use case draft is a separate document, then there is a dependence on the telemetry draft on use case draft. At least it must reference it. So it may slow down publication of the telemetry draft. But anyway, I think that both options should be considered, and there are some um, advantages and disadvantages of both approach. As implementers, usually it's better if use cases are at least briefly explained in the main document, so you can understand what are you implementing and what is it for. But of course, if it makes the main document very large and difficult to read, then it's better to separate use cases from the main document. So both options should be considered. Probably we can discuss it with on the list, and probably with consult our area director what he thinks about it.
Yeah, and Frank, I understand where you're coming up with regard to ISEC discouraging use cases draft, right? But this is more than a use case draft, right? I mean, this is going to be talking about how this telemetry could be used in specific network environments, and how they can leverage this telemetry data to solve specific problems, right? I mean, for deciding the mitigation strategy or for SecOps purposes, right? So it seems more of an operational, it covers more than use cases. It covers how it can be deployed in specific environments, and how specific environments can use this telemetry for doing some more engineering work, whether deep learning or supervised machine learning and other work that could pave way for that, right? So I think this looks more than an use cases draft, and probably it's into the area of both use cases and deployments, and how people should deploy and use this and enhance their mitigation strategies using this.
Okay, okay, Tiru, I got your point. Okay, let me think more time. Okay, and yeah, and also let the draft go forward. We will see. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
And I think we still have the final. Okay, yes. Mei Ling, can you do the presentation?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. We're near the end of the session, so please hurry up.
Okay,
Make it
I
quicker.
will
Yeah.
go faster.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It's first presented at the IETF Wonderfy, so I have received some comments. I have made a new version of this draft, so I will introduce the updated contents next. Okay, next. The goal of my draft is to make some informational recommendation for the DOS agent for deployment. And here we consider about 3 scenarios. Next. In the scenario inside the ISP, I have changed the network structure and to make it much more abstract and more flexible. So we can adjust it according to the size of our network. I have also, okay, in the figure left, right, I put out the secondary network for detail analysis. And here we can set about 2 attack base. We can see the flag 1 and flag 2. The attack source and destination are different in the flag 1 and flag 2. Here we can say about to deploy the DOS client in the detector and deploy the DOS server in the router. Here, what is new here is that detector could be NetFlow or IPFix collector or firewall or IDS. Next. In the second scenario is about the scenario about between ISPs. Here I have made some changes to decentralized DOS agents with ISP. The DOS agent inside ISP will not only match the DOS agent inside, but also match the DOS agents in the other ISP, and only match the highest level agents. Next. Back. Yes. And I have another scenario is about enterprise and ISP. There we can set about another deployment mode is NT D node. This entity is general specific server. Those client deployed within entity node according to the selection of the enterprise. Next. What will do to the next version of my draft? I will further describe the deployment manuals in detail and sell the program. How to know the scope of management on the other side with automatic configuration. This is also the comments for the from other people. And for this program, it's much more difficult for me, so I need more comments and co-author to make this draft move on. Thanks. Next. And I also want to make a discussion about how to make this draft move on to ask for workgroup abortion, adoption, or merge with any other drafts or make some other new contents. Thanks. That's all.
comments? Actually, I don't see too much progress of this draft and too enough discussion of it on the main list or other place. And I personally, I cannot understand clearly what is the new things comparing to the existing DOS documents and the solutions. Mei-Ling, I think you still need to clarify your objectives in the main list and with other, other active people in working group, and have more discussion on the main list. And also you can clarify to us, Chair, what is your goal, what is objective. But still, at current time, I still am not very clear about the goal of this draft. And the content is doesn't make enough progress. I think so. So do you get my point? So I think yeah, I think you still needs some time to make clear of what we want to get from this draft.
Yes, we could go to the slide 2. The current problem I want to throw is to make the program with automatic configuration. Is how do the DOS agents know the attack target belong to which DOS client or DOS server? In addition to manual configuration.
I just feel current content can be combined with several other documents, such as the multi-homing or the telemetry use case or other documents. I don't see the reason why we need this individual draft to describe the different actually the different consideration is related with different aspects, such as how to do the multi-homing, how to do the architecture design. So I don't see any new things here or the reason why we need an individual document about this. But that's just my personal, my individual feeling right now. So that means maybe you need more contents to clarify all these problems.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Anyway, get more comments, get more discussion on the main list will be helpful. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Yeah. We can discuss later. Yeah. So finish all the presentation. Yeah.
Yes, we are 10 minutes behind our ending time. So thank you very much for everybody who presented. I think it was a very fruitful meeting, and a lot of things were discussed, especially about telemetry draft. It's quite interesting. And I think that the next steps, as Frank already said, that we will request an official review of young doctors and ops directorate, and I encourage people to more actively participate in discussing multi-homing draft, because it has very low discussion activity from the last several months, and it seems to us that it's a bit gets stuck, and we need to move it further. And telemetry use cases, I think we'll discuss on the list whether it is useful to have it as a separate document or to merge with to make a draft, and from what we've seen now, some people, probably a lot of more participants, a little bit more. Since it must be separate draft, but I think it must be confirmed on the list and discussed, and also discussed with Ben. And thank you for hierarchical deployment. I agree with Frank that it's probably must be discussed whether it is worth to have this document as individual document, or probably merge it with some other draft. I think everything must be, all the things must be discussed on the list. So thank you very much for everybody for the very good meeting.
Attending. Yeah, yes. We have done. We have finished this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Worry.